CEO in tears over a torn gown before the gala. A single dad stepped in with scissors. The sound was barely audible. A dry, delicate rip, the kind fabric makes when it finally gives up. Elena Cross felt it before she saw it. Her breath caught as she turned toward the mirror, fingers slowly pinching the edge of her gown. Midnight blue silk spilled over her frame like liquid shadow, tailored perfectly to a woman who controlled boardrooms with a single glance. But just beneath her left rib, where the seam curved inward, the silk had betrayed her. A tear.
Clean.
Merciless. No, she whispered. No, no, no. The word echoed in the penthouse dressing room, swallowed by velvet walls and gold-trimmed mirrors. Outside, the Croswell Foundation Gala was already unfolding, music drifting upward, the soft roar of powerful voices, the clink of crystal glasses. Cameras were waiting. Investors were waiting. The world was waiting for her. Elena Cross didn't panic. She never had. Not when hostile takeovers circled her company like sharks. Not when her father died suddenly and left her a collapsing empire at 28. Not when the press called her too cold, too ambitious, too alone. But tonight was different. Tonight wasn't about numbers. It was about perception. And perception depended on perfection. Her assistant, Mara, stood frozen behind her. It can be fixed, she said too quickly. I'll call Paris. I'll call anyone. There has to be. There isn't, Elena said, her voice dangerously calm. This dress was one of one. She pulled slightly at the fabric. The tear widened. That was when her control shattered. Her hands shook. Her chest tightened. Tears blurred the reflection staring back at her, a woman in a billionaire's gown, brought to her knees by a threadbare seam. I can't go out there like this, she whispered. I can't. Mara looked terrified. We have 22 minutes. Elena laughed softly. Not because anything was funny, but because the absurdity of it all finally hit her. Years of ruthless discipline. Decades of sacrifice. And everything hinged on silk. Leave, Elena said quietly. What?
Please.
Just give me a moment. Mara hesitated, then nodded and slipped out, closing the door behind her. The moment it latched, Elena's composure collapsed. She pressed a hand to her mouth as a sob escaped, sharp, humiliating. Tears slid freely now, soaking into fabric worth more than most people earned in a year. She wasn't crying about the dress. She was crying because, for once, she had no solution. A knock came at the door. Elena stiffened. Not now. I'm sorry, a man's voice said from the other side. I was told there's a power issue on this floor. She wiped her cheeks aggressively. Come in. The door opened cautiously. The man who stepped inside didn't belong in her world. He wore a simple navy maintenance uniform, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms marked by old scars and honest work. His boots were scuffed. His hair slightly mussed, as if he'd run his hands through it one too many times. He looked tired but steady, grounded. He stopped short when he saw her. Oh, he said. I can come back. No, Elena said, sharper than intended. It doesn't matter. His gaze flicked to the mirror, to the torn seam, to her reddened eyes. Something in his expression softened. My name's Daniel, he said gently. I'm event staff tonight. She turned away, ashamed of being seen like this. Congratulations. Silence filled the room. Then, quietly, that tear's getting worse. She laughed bitterly. Thank you. I hadn't noticed. I didn't mean, he paused. If you pull like that, the weight shifts. She froze. What did you say? He gestured, awkward but respectful. The gown. The tension's wrong. It's why it ripped again. Elena stared at him. Are you a tailor now? No, he said. I'm a single dad. That wasn't the answer she expected. He shrugged slightly. When your kid keeps outgrowing clothes faster than you can afford new ones, you learn how fabric works. Or you learn how to fail. Her eyes drifted to the counter. An emergency kit sat there, forgotten. Inside it, among bandages and tape, lay a small pair of scissors. Daniel followed her gaze. If you want, he said carefully, I might be able to help. Help. Her voice cracked. You want to cut it? Not ruin it, he replied. Rebalance it. She shook her head. This dress costs more than my yearly rent, he finished calmly. Probably. She should have thrown him out. She should have protected what little dignity she had left. Instead, she checked the clock. 14 minutes. Her shoulders sagged. If you're wrong, she said hollowly, I walk out there destroyed. Daniel met her gaze. No arrogance. No fear. Just quiet certainty. If I'm wrong, he said, I'll take responsibility. Slowly, Elena nodded. Do it. He picked up the scissors. The first snip cut through the air like a gunshot. Elena closed her eyes. Downstairs, the orchestra swelled. Upstairs, a single dad with borrowed scissors was about to rewrite her night and her life. Section 2. Opening hook. Almost equals 800 words. The scissors didn't stop. Neither did the clock. The second cut was slower than the first. Deliberate. Elena opened her eyes just in time to see the blade slide cleanly through silk that had taken months to design and seconds to destroy. Her breath hitched, fingers curling into fists at her sides. Don't look, Daniel said quietly. She almost laughed. It's hard not to, when you're dismantling my reputation. He didn't smile. He didn't even glance up. Reputation doesn't tear like fabric, he said. Egos do. That stung. But she stayed still. The clock on the wall ticked louder now. Each second felt like a countdown to public humiliation. 14 minutes had already become 12. Daniel stepped closer, not invading, but precise. He tilted his head, studying how the gown fell against her body, where the weight pulled, where the seam had failed. This dress was made for standing, he murmured. Not breathing. Elena swallowed. It was made to impress. Same thing most nights, he replied. Another cut. Smaller. Strategic. The torn seam disappeared, not repaired, but reimagined. He trimmed the edge, reshaping the line so the damage became intentional, elegant. The fabric shifted under his hands, obeying physics instead of panic. Elena watched in disbelief. You've done this before, she said. Daniel nodded once. School plays. Halloween costumes. Wedding dress once. Her heart skipped. Your wife? No, he said simply. My sister. She didn't have time to buy another. The way he said it, without drama, without bitterness, made Elena's throat tighten. Outside, the music changed. Applause erupted below, muffled through the floor. They're waiting, Elena whispered. I know, Daniel said. You're almost ready. Almost. He stepped back, assessing, then frowned slightly. Problem, she asked. Not a problem, he said. A choice. He reached for a pin from the kit and held it up between his fingers. This turns it into something safe, he said. Conventional. No risks. Her reflection stared back at her, still powerful, still composed. But something in her eyes had shifted. And the other option? She asked. He met her gaze. We lean into it. Her pulse quickened. We open the seam a little more, he explained. Make it asymmetrical. Bold. People won't see a mistake. They'll see confidence. Elena laughed softly. You realize if this goes wrong, I'll be on every gossip site by morning. Daniel's voice was steady. You're already there. She inhaled. For years, she had played it safe in public. Perfect lines. Perfect words. Perfect armor. I built this company by taking risks, she said quietly. Somewhere along the way, I forgot how. Daniel extended the scissors toward her. Then decide. She didn't hesitate. Cut it. This time, she watched. The scissors moved again, reshaping the gown into something daring. The torn seam became a dramatic line that revealed strength instead of vulnerability. The fabric flowed differently now, freer. Alive. Daniel worked fast. Efficient. Focused. 10 minutes. He pinned, folded, adjusted. His hands never lingered where they shouldn't. Respect radiated from every movement. There, he said finally. Walk. Elena blinked. What? Take 3 steps, he said. Trust the fabric.
She did.
The gown held. Not just held, it moved with her. Her breath left her in a shaky exhale. It's beautiful. Daniel allowed himself a small smile. It suits you. The door opened suddenly. Mara rushed in, pale. They're calling your name. She stopped short when she saw the gown. Oh my, her eyes widened. That wasn't the dress. Elena straightened her shoulders, lifted her chin. It is now, she said. She turned to Daniel. Thank you. He shook his head. Not yet. She frowned. There's one more thing, he said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a simple black hair tie. Elena stared. You fixed couture with a hair tie? Center of gravity, he said, tying it discreetly at the back to adjust the drape. Now it won't pull. She laughed, genuinely this time. The clock read 3 minutes. Music swelled again below. Elena took one last look at herself. She didn't see a CEO hiding a flaw. She saw a woman who owned it. She turned back to Daniel. If this works. He met her eyes. It will. She stepped toward the door. As she reached for the handle, she paused. What's your daughter's name? She asked suddenly. Daniel hesitated. Lily. Elena nodded. I won't forget that. The doors opened. Light flooded in. Applause rose like thunder. And as Elena crosswalked toward the stage, wearing a gown reborn by a single dad with scissors, every eye followed her. None of them saw the tear. But everything was about to change. The crowd rose, not knowing why. The applause hit her like a wave. Not polite. Not restrained. It rolled through the grand ballroom, sharp, sudden, unstoppable, as Elena stepped into the light. For half a second, she forgot to breathe. Hundreds of faces turned toward her. Cameras snapped in rapid-fire bursts. The orchestra softened, letting the sound of clapping swell until it filled every corner of the room. Investors leaned forward. Reporters whispered. Socialites craned their necks. They were looking for flaws. They always were. Elena walked anyway. The gown moved with her. Not stiff, not fragile. It flowed, daring and deliberate, the asymmetrical line catching the light in a way no original sketch could have planned. Where there should have been safety, there was confidence. Where there should have been fear, there was fire.
Whispers spread.
Who designed that? That cut, did you see that? She looks different. Elena climbed the steps to the stage. Every heel strike steady, measured. The clock in her mind stopped counting minutes and started counting heartbeats. She reached the podium. And then, just as the applause began to fade, a voice cut through the room. Elena. Her spine stiffened. She knew that voice. Victor Hale rose from his seat near the front, silver-haired, immaculately dressed, smile sharp as glass. Former board member. Former mentor. The man who had tried and failed to push her out 2 years ago. The room went quiet. Elena Cross, Victor continued smoothly. Before we proceed with tonight's announcement, I'm sure the guests would appreciate knowing whether this new direction, his eyes flicked pointedly to her gown, was planned or simply improvised. A ripple of tension swept the ballroom. Mara, standing off stage, went pale. This was it. Elena's fingers curled lightly around the podium. She could deflect. She could joke. She could retreat into polished corporate language. Instead, she smiled. It was improvised, she said clearly. Gasps whispered through the crowd. Victor's smile widened. Bold choice. One might say risky. Yes, Elena agreed. I would. She paused, letting the silence stretch. But risk is the reason Crosswell exists. The room stilled. For years, she continued, this company has been praised for its precision, its control, its perfection. Her gaze swept the audience. And yet, the greatest breakthroughs we've ever had came from moments that weren't perfect, moments when something broke and someone chose not to panic. A few heads nodded. Victor's eyes narrowed. I tore this gown tonight, Elena said. An audible gasp this time. Minutes before walking out here. I had every reason to cancel, to hide, to pretend nothing happened. She took a breath. Instead, I trusted someone who understood how things break and how they can be remade. The crowd leaned in. Backstage, Daniel stood frozen, eyes locked on the stage monitor. His chest tightened. She wasn't going to. My father taught me that leadership isn't about never failing, Elena said. It's about who you listen to when you do. Her gaze drifted, just slightly, toward the side of the stage. Daniel felt it like a spotlight. I'd like you to meet someone, she said. Murmurs rippled. Daniel's stomach dropped.
No.
No, no. Elena, is this necessary? Victor interjected coolly. She turned back to him. Absolutely. She gestured. Daniel Reyes. Event staff. The crowd stirred, confused. Daniel didn't move. Mara hissed from the wings. Go. Heart pounding, Daniel stepped into the light. He squinted, momentarily blinded. The applause returned, but this time uncertain. Curious. Elena stepped closer to him, lowering her voice. I hope you don't mind. I do, he muttered. A lot. She smiled. Into the microphone, she said, Daniel is a single father. He's not a designer. He's not an executive. But tonight, when I needed help, he solved a problem no one else could. Victor chuckled softly. With scissors. Yes, Elena said. And with judgment. The room quieted again. Crosswell's next chapter, Elena continued, is about resilience. Adaptation. Trusting skill over titles. She turned back to Daniel. Thank you. The applause this time was different.
Deeper.
Warmer. Daniel felt his ears burn. He nodded awkwardly, then turned to leave. Wait, Elena said. She addressed the crowd once more. Tonight, I'm announcing a new initiative, funding vocational programs for skilled workers and single parents. Because talent doesn't always wear a suit. The room erupted. Victor's smile vanished. Daniel's breath caught. As the applause thundered, Elena leaned toward Daniel and whispered, I told you I wouldn't forget Lily. He froze. How do you? She smiled, eyes bright. Because some names matter. The lights blazed. Cameras flashed. And in that moment, as a single dad stood beside a CEO under crystal chandeliers, the world shifted, just enough to let something real through. The spotlight faded, but the consequences didn't. The applause followed Elena off the stage, but it didn't feel like triumph. It felt like aftershock. The moment she disappeared behind the velvet curtains, the noise dulled, replaced by the hum of generators and the whisper of staff moving too quickly. The world that had just cheered her didn't exist back here. Back here, everything was real again. Daniel exhaled for what felt like the first time in an hour. I didn't agree to that, he said quietly, hands shoved into his pockets. Elena turned toward him, the lights catching the sharp line of the gown he'd reshaped. I know. That wasn't an apology.
No, she said.
It was gratitude. He shook his head. You put a maintenance guy on stage in front of half the city. And you stood, she replied. You didn't run. That doesn't mean I wanted my daughter's name broadcast in a room full of strangers. Elena's expression softened. I never said her name aloud. Daniel paused. She was right. Still, his jaw tightened. People like Victor don't forget moments like that. Neither do people like me, she said evenly. Before he could respond, Mara rushed over, tablet in hand. Security wants to speak with you. There's a situation. Elena stiffened. What kind of situation? Mara hesitated. It's about Daniel. His chest tightened. I didn't steal anything. That's not it, Mara said quickly. Someone filed a complaint. Claims you violated protocol by altering, she glanced at the gown, company property. Daniel let out a humorless laugh. Of course they did. Elena's eyes hardened. Who? Mara swallowed. Victor Hale. Silence dropped between them. Elena closed her eyes for a brief moment, then opened them with resolve sharpened into steel. Tell security to wait. She turned to Daniel. Walk with me. They moved down a quieter corridor, away from the noise. The carpet here was worn, the lighting dimmer, no chandeliers, no cameras. This is my fault, Elena said. I dragged you into a power struggle. Daniel stopped. No. You made a choice. So did I. He ran a hand through his hair. But my life isn't built for this kind of attention. I know, she said. Tell me about Lily. He looked at her surprised. She's 8, he said slowly. Smart. Stubborn. Loves drawing horses and correcting my grammar. Elena smiled faintly. She sounds formidable.
She is, he said.
And she needs stability. I can't afford to lose this job. Elena's chest tightened. You won't, she said firmly. Before he could ask how, Victor's voice echoed down the hall. Touching, Victor drawled as he approached, flanked by 2 security officers. But let's not forget why we're here. Elena turned, unflinching. We're here because you're embarrassed. Victor smiled thinly. I'm here because an employee damaged private property and exposed the company to ridicule. The company received a standing ovation, Elena said. Hardly ridicule. Victor's gaze flicked to Daniel. Rules exist for a reason. So does judgment, Elena replied. And mine says he did exactly what was needed. Victor leaned in. You're letting sentiment cloud leadership. Elena stepped closer, voice low and lethal.
No.
I'm letting leadership redefine sentiment. She turned to the guards. Daniel acted under my instruction. That's not true, Daniel protested. It is now, Elena said without looking at him. Victor's smile faltered. You'd protect him over protocol? I'd protect the truth, she said. And the truth is, you tried to sabotage this evening. The accusation landed like a slap. Victor straightened. Careful. Your complaint is noted. Elena continued calmly. So is your attempt to undermine a public announcement. The board will hear about both. Victor's eyes flashed with fury. This isn't over, he said. Elena met his stare.
No.
It isn't. Victor turned and strode away. The guards followed. Silence settled again. Daniel exhaled shakily. You didn't have to do that. Yes, Elena said. I did. She looked at him, not as a CEO, not as a savior, but as a woman reckoning with the cost of her own choices. Daniel, she said, I don't know how to thank you without turning your life upside down. He thought of Lily, of rent, of the fragile balance he fought to keep every day. Just let me go home, he said quietly. That's enough. Elena nodded. For tonight. She paused, then added, but tomorrow, I'd like to talk. Properly. He hesitated.
About what?
About a future, she said honestly. For you. For Lily. And for people who don't usually get invited into rooms like that. Daniel studied her face, searching for arrogance.
He found none.
Only resolve. The lights dimmed behind them, and somewhere between the gala's fading echoes and the quiet hallway, both of them understood. What began as a torn gown was now a line neither of them could step back across. The morning after, when the real stakes appeared, the city looked different in daylight. Elena noticed it as her car slowed at a red light. Cracks in the pavement, a man selling flowers from a dented bucket, a mother tugging a sleepy child along the sidewalk. These were details she usually passed without seeing, blurred behind tinted windows and schedules packed too tight for noticing. But this morning, she was awake to all of it.
Her phone buzzed again.
Gala gown goes viral. Who designed this power move? CEO's risky speech redefines leadership. Mystery man with scissors steals the show. Elena exhaled and locked the screen. None of them mentioned the tear. None of them mentioned fear. Only the result. By the time she reached the office, the boardroom was already full. Faces turned toward her, some curious, some wary, some quietly impressed. Victor's seat was empty. She took her place at the head of the table. Before we begin, she said calmly, there's something I want to address. A screen lit up behind her. Numbers appeared. Not projections, commitments. Last night, Elena continued, I announced a vocational initiative. This morning, I'm expanding it. Murmurs rippled. Paid training programs. On-site childcare partnerships. Priority placement for single parents and skilled workers transitioning into technical roles. A hand rose. That's the ambitious. So was saving this company, Elena replied evenly. Silence followed. then nods. The motion passed. When the meeting ended, Elena didn't linger. She went somewhere she'd never been before. A public elementary school. Daniel stood outside the front gate, lunchbox in one hand, Lily's small fingers wrapped around the other. He looked up, startled, when a sleek black car stopped across the street. Elena stepped out. Lily squinted. "Dad, that's the lady from the stage." Daniel sighed. "Good morning." Elena smiled, not the practiced kind. The real one. "I hope I'm not interrupting," she said. "I promised I wouldn't forget." Lily tilted her head. "You liked my name?" "I did," Elena said. "May I walk with you?"
They did.
Daniel listened as Elena spoke, not of contracts or headlines, but of possibilities, of scholarships, of flexible hours, of a job offer that wasn't a favor, but an opportunity. "I don't want to own your life," Elena said quietly. "I want to support it." Daniel stopped walking. "And if I say no," he asked. "Then I'll respect that," she replied. "Because trust only works when it's chosen." He looked down at Lily. She squeezed his hand. "Dad, she looks honest." He laughed softly. That settled it. Weeks later, the program launched. Months later, Lily sat in the front row of a small auditorium, feet swinging, crayons in her lap, as Daniel stood on stage, not with scissors, but with a microphone, speaking about skill, dignity, and second chances. Elena watched from the back. She wore a simple dress that day. No drama. No armor. Afterward, Lily ran up and hugged her legs without warning. "Your dress is not broken," she declared proudly. Elena knelt. "Neither am I." The press would later call it a turning point. They'd say it began at a gala, under chandeliers, with a daring gown. But Elena knew the truth. It began in a quiet room, with a tear no one saw, and a single dad who knew how to fix what mattered.